All right, so the draft just happened. I did a 4.5 hour stream. I'm about to go to bed, but before I go to bed, I wanted to kind of recap everything that happened in there, some of the interesting things that happened throughout the night, what's good, what's not good for the Cleveland Browns, and then do a quick mock draft of what the Browns could do going into this. And also, hey guys, if you like my content, you like what I do here, not just hit the subscribe button, ding the notification bell, and do all of that. Make sure you check in for today's live stream of day 2 of the NFL draft. We will be covering at least till the Browns pick till 44, if not some more. So come check it out. Come watch the draft with me the second day of the draft where the Browns actually have a pick. Come check it out. It's going to be fun. Make sure you're here. But now let's talk about who's available, who's left, and what that means for the Cleveland Browns. Now, the big note, right, that came out of this year's draft was that the quarterbacks did not go as some people were projecting them to go. Now, this year's draft class was really, really weird because we knew it wasn't good coming into it. We knew it wasn't good during the draft process and everything else, but we still convinced ourselves that like 5 of these quarterbacks could go in the first round. I've always felt like this draft class was bad. At the quarterback position, it was especially bad. I think you can make an argument that there are vastly better free agents that are better prospects and have better chances of being franchise quarterbacks, and those aren't high odds than any of the guys that you would pick here, right? Like Baker Mayfield, probably a better bet to be a franchise quarterback than anybody in this draft class. And y'all know I'm not super high on Baker Mayfield or anything like that. That's just how this draft class was. And this is what happened, right? Everybody hyped up this draft class. Everybody pumped up this draft class. Everybody used this draft class for leverage. But at the end of the day, when it came down to make the picks, nobody did it. And here's what's most interesting. Even with Malik Willis, nobody was willing to move up into the first round to take him. Right? Nobody was willing to move up a few spots. That's especially interesting when it comes to Carolina, because if Carolina really likes Malik Willis, then they would have moved up to 6 spots to guarantee that extra year of control. When it comes to the 5th-year option, if you don't know, first-round picks get a 5th-year option. Second-round picks are 4-year flat contracts. So nobody moved into that round to get that 5th-year control. That tells me that nobody other than Pittsburgh loved these quarterbacks. Now, Pittsburgh took Kenny Pickett. Love that for them. Specifically because I think Kenny Pickett's garbage. But we'll see what happens with Kenny Pickett. I'm not a big Kenny Pickett fan. I think you can make the argument that JT Barrett was a better prospect coming out of college than Kenny Pickett. And JT Barrett barely got drafted. Kenny Pickett somehow 20th pick in the draft. Have no idea how that happened. But hey, man, good on Kenny, right? Like, good for Kenny. But that's kind of the situation there, right? The quarterbacks didn't go. Now, is that good for the Cleveland Browns? Is that bad for the Cleveland Browns? It's good and bad. It's good because it means it's more likely that the guy you want at 44 and the guy you might want at 78 could be there. It's bad in the sense of trying to trade Baker Mayfield for anything at this point is probably a lost cause. Because if you're Carolina and you only have to spend a 2nd-round pick and you don't even got to move up to get Malik Willis, you'll do it. You'll do it, right? Or if you just got to move up a couple spots in the 2nd round, you'll do it. That's a lot cheaper than Baker Mayfield. And the upside is there for Malik Willis. That makes sense. That's the one real trading partner you have. Everybody else, I don't think they're going to be serious enough trade partners to where they would overcome a burden to bring on Baker Mayfield at his current number. So I think the whole idea that we're going to trade Baker Mayfield for a bunch of picks, that's looking like a 30% or lower chance that we're going to get any return on Baker Mayfield. And we might just end up cutting him just because you don't want this thing to linger into mandatory camp season where it's going to become a storyline. It's going to get people asking questions about it. Like, we know how these things can linger on. When it comes to these type of situations in any sport, it's sometimes better to just take the loss when it comes to the compensation, but take the win when it comes to the headache. So that's what I would anticipate that the Browns are going to do going forward. But the good news is that a lot of the players that we like, they're still there, right? They're enough to where, hey, man, you think that the Browns could get a guy that they really, really like here at 44. Let's go through who PFF thinks is the best players available. Now, again, PFF, I don't really love their draft grades. They just had it in a cleaner format without ads all over the page. So that's why I choose PFF. I'm not like the giant PFF fan that people sometimes make me out to be for whatever reason, but here we are. All right, so Bernhard Raimann is still there. I'm out on Bernhard Raimann. I don't think he's going to be very good at all. I don't like big, tall, heavy offensive linemen with slow feet who don't like to fight. That's what Bernhard Raimann is. He does not like to fight. He shies away from contact. He is not a dude who likes to get physical in them trenches. I don't like that. I'll take my chance anywhere else. The Kobe Dean is there, who I like a lot, but you can't just, if you put him in JOK as your two starting linebackers, you're basically running dime. No matter what package you have out there, you're running dime, and you can't live like that in the AFC North. Sky Moore is there, who I do like. Andrew Booth, who is there, who I do like. Travis Jones still there. George Pickens still there. Jalen Petrie still there. And again, these quarterbacks, right? It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Now, I think, me personally, what's going to happen with these quarterbacks is they're going to fall back to value, right? In the first round, people panic and they overdraft quarterbacks. But once we get past the first round and maybe Malik Willis, I think everybody else just falls to value, right? Desmond Ridder might not get drafted till day 3. I think he's a day 3 prospect, me personally. Sam Howell, same thing. Matt Corral, same thing. Carson Strong, same thing. I would not be surprised if tomorrow the only quarterback taken is Malik Willis, because he's really the only quarterback that should be taken tomorrow. And then maybe Desmond Ridder at the back end of this round. But there's always the chance that teams go quarterback crazy, which would be terrible for the Browns' chance to be able to trade Baker Mayfield. Honestly, none of this is good for the Browns' chance to trade Baker Mayfield. It looks like a slim chance that they're going to be able to get anything for that. But what it does mean is that if there is a run on quarterbacks, hey, maybe somebody who shouldn't be there at 44 will be there. Right now, who am I interested in the Browns getting? Obviously, I like Perrion Winfrey. PFF famously does not like Perrion Winfrey. They think he's a day 3 pick. I think they're absolutely absurdly wrong on that one. Jalen Petrie's another interesting guy, but he's more of a safety. I don't think the Browns will go safety at 44. George Pickens could be there. Travis Jones could be interesting there because he's more of a run stuffer. That's what the Browns need, but I don't know if you draft a run stuffer at 44, especially when most of what he brings to the table is size, and you can get size later in this draft. But yeah, I would be pretty locked in. Drake Jackson would be an interesting one. David Ojabo would be an interesting one there at 44. And I think Perrion Winfrey would be an interesting one there. I think those are the 3 players that the Browns take them. I have absolutely no problems with. You could throw George Pickens in there if I haven't already. But other than that, I have some questions about some of the other players that be there. Drake Jackson's also another guy, if I didn't mention him already, that I would be absolutely fine with at 44. But those are the guys, the pack of the players I like at 44. We're going to see what becomes available, who trades up for what. It's been a pretty crazy draft here. Now, also another thing I wanted to address real quick was it seems to be this panic among some of the fans and definitely some of the media. I was watching a Cleveland.com video, and it seemed like everybody was like, we got to get a wide receiver. We don't. We can wait. We can absolutely wait to get a wide receiver. We can get a wide receiver at 78. We get a wide receiver at 99. It ain't like we drafted a number 1 wide receiver anyways, right? You can really come up here and reach for Christian Watson. Well, it wouldn't be a reach, but it would be a reach for what we would be asking him to do at 44. But you don't got to, because, yeah, you could take Christian Watson, or you could just take Alec Pierce, who's a very similar athletic profile to Christian Watson. Not as athletic, but similarly athletic, and will play a similar role. And I don't think the difference between those 2 players are worth the draft spots that would be in between 30 picks, right? George Pickens is a guy that would be interesting. He's a project, right? He might not work out. There's some concerns about his attitude and his love of the game and everything else. But this is ultimately a dude who tore his ACL in the spring and came back for the last game of the season to play some football. He's a physical dude. Sometimes it gets him in trouble. He likes to fight. Honestly, it don't sound like a problem to me, but that might be a problem to some people. But that's somebody there that could be there at 45. But again, the difference between the George Pickens or maybe if you want to take a chance at 118 with somebody like the Clemson wide receiver, I'm blanking on his name. I always blank on his name, but I do like him. Not Jalen Marshall. That's a completely different draft. But John Mechie could be there at 78 or 99. I mean, come on. I think John Mechie would be a tremendous wide receiver prospect. Same thing with Christian Watson. He could be there. DeMarvin Leal is an edge prospect who could also be there. You have a litany of options here. If you're the Cleveland Browns at wide receiver, you do not have to rush and do this at 44. Honestly, I think at 44 is the wrong time to do it, especially if George Pickens is gone, because I think you're not getting best player available. You're just reaching for a wide receiver at that point. You can go best player available, get a wide receiver at 99, 78, and 118, and you'll be all right, right? Other positions, other players that will be available on the board at different spots, I think take a priority over wide receiver because, one, it's not that big of a priority for this roster. I know people are concerned, well, what if Amari Cooper gets hurt? One, that's why you got Amari Cooper, because he never gets hurt. You could also bring back Jarvis Landry, who also, he gets hurt, but he always plays, right? These are two guys who get hurt but always play. But hey, let's say something happens, you still got Donovan Peoples-Jones. And then after that, hey, it does get a little bit rough, but that's the reality of what your roster is going to be like when you're paying a quarterback that much money. You're just going to have to rely on Deshaun Watson to elevate some people at some point, right? I don't think wide receiver is the biggest deal in the world. I think you could wait on it. But a lot of people are kind of like in that whole, we need to draft a wide receiver now. I'm just not with that. All right, so we're going to do, let's do a couple of round 2 mocks. To see what could be available. We'll do the second and third rounds here. And, let's just look at it. PFF already has the one recap, the picks in, and see what could be available here, run a couple scenarios. All right, so we're going to start this off here and get to the Browns. Now, this is an interesting run here because what Nakobe Dean went, Andrew Booth went, Raymond went, Willis went, Ajabo went. They traded up to get Ajabo. And George Pickens is gone. Sam Howell also gone here. So a lot of players are gone. You could take Travis Jones here, and that would be an excellent pick. You could also get Perion Winfrey, and that'd be an excellent pick. Let's see. We'll take Travis Jones here just for this scenario, right? I would love a defensive tackle at 44 just because I think you'll get a really good player. Now, again, Perion Winfrey, ain't no way he's going to get past. I don't think he gets through to the third round. I think that's a ridiculous assumption to make. Some people are making. But here you could get to 78. And then look who's available here at 78. Alec Pierce is still here. Khalil Shakir is still here. David Bell is still here. Justin Ross is down there. You can get him at 118. Like, you have options at wide receiver. You do not have to reach at 44 for wide receiver just because everybody else went wide receiver crazy. You don't got to do it. I'm telling you, and I'm promising you guys, you don't have to do it. Don't listen to what's out there. You really don't got to reach. You can take your time, take an edge player here in Kingsley and Barre, right? And you could chill, get to 99, and go to wide receiver, and you could still have one or two guys that you like, right? David Bell is still here. No, there's no Khalil Shakir, but you can still take Justin Ross. You can still take some guys that you like here. Kyle Phillips, if that's your flavor of the way. I'll take David Bell here, right? That's going to be considered a reach by some, but again, if you like him, you like him, right? You don't have to reach. You can get a guy at 78. You can get a guy at 48. You can get one of those dudes in this draft here. Again, let's run another one, right? Let's just do this again, run this again, see what we get if we take a wide receiver, right? Like, I'm going to be dead set here, right? Like y'all want me to be. Let's be dead set at wide receiver. Wide receiver, no matter what. We get to 44. Who's available? George Pickens. We take George Pickens. All right, now let's get to 78 and see what's available, right? Because George Pickens would be the pick, right? That would make sense. But now when we get to best player available, All right, let's see who the defensive tackles are, right? Can I still get Perion Winfrey? Can I get one of the interior players that I like? No, you can't. They're all gone, right? You're down to Matthew Butler, Curtis Brooks, Haskell Garrett. Like, these aren't guys that you would want to take at 78 at all. You look at wide receiver, what's available here at wide receiver. You can still get Alec Pierce. You can still get Khalil Shakir. You can still get David Bell. You can still get all of these guys, Justin Ross. Now, again, PFF isn't the greatest barometer to go by because I think their board kind of sucks this year. So certain things might change. But let's say you take Dominique Robinson right here, and you get to the third round, and what? Now you would take Marcus Jones or somebody like that. And again, let's see wide receivers available. You can still get David Bell. You can still get Justin Ross. Again, you don't have to reach for any of these wide receivers. There are so many in this draft that are going to be good wide receivers for you, right? Not excellent, not the greatest wide receiver to ever touch God's green earth, but good, solid wide receivers. Let's just take Marcus Jones to end this one, right? Again, you don't have to reach. I know there's a ton of people who want you to reach, who are telling you the Browns need to reach. The Browns need to get a wide receiver. You get a wide receiver in the third round. You get a wide receiver in the fourth round. Up until the fifth round, I think you can get a starting wide receiver if you're smart and you evaluate correctly, because that is what this is about, like, honestly. And that's kind of how I feel about this whole thing. But that's my thoughts on day one of the draft, a little run through of what day two could look like. Hey, make sure you lock it here for your draft day two coverage, live stream here on this channel. Come check me out. It's a blast as always. If you haven't done a live stream with me, I do them all the time during the season. I do them for special occasions during the off season. It's always a blast. We have fun. So come on, check out day two of the draft with me tonight. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you have the notification bell on. But again, guys, thank you for watching. Y'all have a great day. Have a good night.